All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Peace Silence Spiritual Series 2 lecture. I hope all of you are doing well and that you are staying safe and healthy. My name is Anas Guen, and I will be the program moderator for today. To give a brief introduction about myself, I came to the United States in 2015. I studied computer science, and along the way, I volunteered for youth organizations, and currently I'm directing a youth organization in Boston. I thank the Peace Island Institute of Boston for giving me this opportunity to be as a moderator in front of you. On behalf of Peace Islands Institute Boston, we would like to thank you all for joining us tonight. After the lecture, there will be a Q&A session with Dr. Zeki Saritoprak. Please feel free to send any and all of your questions in the YouTube chat box. On the right. Introduction. So now, what is Peace Islands? Peace Islands Institute of Boston is a nonprofit organization devoted to promote interfaith and intercultural dialogue. We're welcoming everyone in a society with practical programs to connect people in real life. Our goal is to build loyal relationships, to collaborate on substantial service projects that contribute to the society's benefit, and promote universal principles to contribute to greater understanding of peace. We passionately believe in the power of dialogue to change attitudes. We also thank the many organizations who have made this event possible. Thank you to the Peace Islands Institute Boston, the Peace Valley Foundation, and the Maple Foundation. So now I will introduce you to our dear speaker, Dr. Saritoprak. Dr. Saritoprak has been teaching Islamic studies courses in the Theology and Religious Studies Department at JCU since 2002 and in 2003. Since then, he has become the inaugural holder of the Bediüzzaman Said Nursi Chair in the Islamic Studies. At JCU, Dr. Saritoprak has been a tireless advocate for diversity and helping JCU to become a more welcoming place for Muslims and other minority students. He helped found and still serves as the advisor for the Muslim Student Society and often leads the group's Jummah or Friday prayers. Outside of the JCU, Dr. Saritoprak has been a leader in dialogue and interfaith work. He is a member of the National Catholic Muslim Dialogue and currently a Muslim co-chair for the Midwest Catholic Muslim Dialogue, both of which are co-sponsored by the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops and the Islamic Society of North America. In his many writings, including his book on Islam's Jesus and Islamic spirituality, and his countless public appearances, Dr. Saritoprak has become a tireless advocate for dialogue, reconciliation, and peace between the otherness of the world's religious traditions. He is currently working on a manuscript for a book on Islamic eschatology. So thank you, Dr. Saritoprak, for coming today and spending this valuable time of yours with us in this lovely Friday night. And we can start for our second lecture of our series.
Okay, thank you very much, Anas. And thank you for this generous introduction. I will focus on one aspect of Nursi's writings, one short letter. He wrote a book called The Letters. So the letter that I will be elaborating on is considerably short, but it's very powerful. So I chose this as a spiritual reading for us. So I will elaborate on one part of it. And of course, at the end, we'll have time for questions. If you have any question, I will be pleased to answer your questions as well. So to speak of Nursi, of course, we need to say a few words about him. Who is Nursi? Bediüz Zaman, Said Nursi. His Bediüz Zaman is his title, which means the unique of the age, the wonder of the age. It is given to him by his teachers, and because he had a photographic memory, and therefore when he would analyze things and then at the same time would be able to memorize, his teacher, his one specific teacher said, "This is extraordinary. So you are not a normal person. You are an extraordinary person." And therefore they called him Bediüz Zaman, which means the wonder of the age, or the unique person of the age. And his full name is Said Nursi. Said is his name, and Nursi is relating to his village, Nurs. He was born in 1876, and he died in 1960. Actually, just a few days ago, the 23rd of March, was the anniversary of his death. He passed away in 23rd of March in 1960, which was actually in Ramadan, 25th of Ramadan, 1379 Hijri calendar. So he wrote many books. He's a prolific author. Basically, I would say about maybe 130 treatises. He called them the treatises of light. He is calling his books generally with the name of treatises of light. And each of these treatises would have a specific name, would be like the miracles of the Quran, the resurrection and hereafter, something like these type of names. He would name each treatise separately. And then also these treatises are compiled within separate books. One book is called the Words, Sözler. Another one is called the Letters. The book that I will be elaborating on it is the Letters and part of the Letters. And then another one is called the Rays, Şualar. Another one is called Lemalar, the Flashes. So these are like the major books that he wrote. Approximately the total of books that he wrote could be counted as about 6,000 pages. His books are considered as a commentary of the Quran, the Holy Book of Islam. Not classical style of commentary, but much more what he called it tafsir manevi, a special tafsir, spiritual tafsir of the Quran that is not commenting word by word, but commenting the verses that are in question, that are in need. People are asking about it. So he would ask questions and then he would respond based on his understanding of these Quranic verses. So the topic that I am going to talk about is this phrase of it partially is from the Quran, but some parts of it are from the Quran, but originally from the Hadith. There is a statement that the Prophet said, the Prophet of Islam, peace and blessings be upon him, says, anyone who repeats this and recite this daily 10 times, he will have such a reward. So, excuse me. So what are these phrases? The Arabic one has many narrations, many versions. Nursi prefers one version, so I will elaborate on the version that Nursi prefers, and that is La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah, lahul mulku wa lahul hamd, yuhyi wa yumit, wa huwa hayyun la yamut, biyadihi al-khair, wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. And the meaning of this is that there is no deity but God, Allah. He is one. He has no partner. His is the dominion and His is the praise. He alone gives life. He alone gives death. And He is the living one who never dies. All good is in His hands, and He is the most powerful over everything, and to Him is the return. So he elaborates on each of these phrases. He counts as 11 phrases. So based on his calculation, I will elaborate on the way that he describes and he interprets these phrases. Each phrase actually has a source in the Quran. I found like in Surah Al-Taghabun, in Surah Al-Rad, in Surah Ibrahim. Basically, the phrases are mentioned here, frequently mentioned in the Quran. So they are part of the Quranic verses. But in this hadith, it is specifically put together so that people can memorize and can read on daily basis. What this statement tells people, tells human being, basically Nursi will be addressing through these phrases to all human beings. Everyone, every human being is the addressee of these phrases. So the first phrase, what is the first phrase? La ilaha illallah, there is no deity but God. What is the meaning of it? What is the meaning of La ilaha illallah? Well, we say there is no deity but God. Is that enough? Or there is more? So he elaborates on this, in various of his writings. But I like the phrase that he put here, very short phrase. He says, this phrase rescues the heart from an unlimited wilderness and the soul from a painful sadness and provides an eternal joy and eternal happiness. That is what La ilaha illallah gives human beings. Human heart and human mind frequently will be perplexed, will be in wilderness, doesn't know what to do, doesn't know the direction, where to go. The soul is lost, in pain. And now there is a rescuer. This Quranic statement, and this, of course, this is also part of Shahada, as you know, La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, the first part of Shahada. This phrase rescues the heart. It gives direction to the heart. Direct your face to Allah. Direct your heart to Allah. Make your heart full with the light of the divine. And make your soul close to the divine so that there will be no painful of sadness. So that you will have eternal joy and eternal happiness. That, in this time of spiritual sicknesses, in this time of stress, that people are overwhelmed by a variety of things, this phrase becomes a rescue. This phrase becomes a refuge. Of course, when we say this phrase, of course, we need to understand in a large meaning, in a deeper meaning of the phrase, not just repeating the word. Of course, repeating the word also is good, but just repeating the word may not be enough. To go into the depth of the meaning of this phrase, then will be very much helping with the joy and eternal happiness of human beings. So the second phrase, also very beautiful, he says, the translation of the second phrase is, He is one. God is one. What's the meaning of it? It's very easy to say, God is one. Nursi elaborates very beautifully. He says, God is one. These address it to human beings, saying to human beings that do not wear yourself out having recourse to other things. So do not make other things as the source of help for you. Your source of help is one, with capital O. Do not demean yourself and feel indebted to them. Them, in this case, like causes. Do not be indebted to the causes, because there is the cause of the causes. And in this case, the cause of the causes, with capital C. He is musabbibul asbab. So go to him. He is one. And do not bow down before the things and humiliate yourself before them. Do not run after them and make things difficult for yourself. Do not fear the causes and tremble before them. Why? Now the answer comes. Because the King of the universe is one. The key to all things is with him. The reins of all things are in his hand. Everything is resolved by his command. If you find him, you will be saved from endless indebtedness and countless fears. If you find him, you are safe. And very famous statement of Saadi Shirazi, who says, the person who finds him finds everything. The person who has lost him has lost everything. I think that's very powerful. And Nursi takes from this phrase, wahdahu, he is one. He is one. You don't need to beg before causes. Beg before only one. And that is Allah. So this is one. The second phrase. The third phrase, he has no partner. La sharika leh. Allah has no partners. What this phrase tells to human spirit, how this phrase cures the deficiencies of human spirit. Nursi says, the human spirit, which has already attained faith, may without any hindrance, interference, barrier, or obstacle in any situation, with any wish, at any time, and in any place, enter the presence of the most beautiful. That is God. So there is no limit for human beings to enter his presence. Time, any time, there are no barriers, there are no obstacles. No one can say you cannot go. Because this is a connection of the heart with the divine. the most beautiful, who has majesty, and glorious one, the most powerful, who has perfection, who is the pre-eternal and post-eternal, owner of the treasuries of mercy, and the one who gives bliss, and may present its needs. Discovering his mercy and relying on his power, it will find perfect joy and happiness. This phrase helps human spirit to discover his power, to discover his mercy. And if that happens, you will have a perfect joy and happiness. It is not a theory. Those who have discovered this experienced that joy. And all Muslim mystics are good examples of this, historically and even modern. The fourth phrase that in this prophetic statement that I just mentioned in the beginning, the Arabic is lahul mulk, and the translation of it is his is the dominion. The dominion belongs to him. So what this phrase gives to human spirit? O human being, the phrase says to human being, O human being, do not consider yourself your own owner. So this phrase suggests that human beings are not the owner of themselves. You have no control over your own governance. Such a load would be heavy, and you are unable to protect yourself on your own, to avoid calamities, or to do the things that you must. You are not able to do all the things. You are not able to protect yourself against all things. Thus, do not fall into pain and do not torment for no reason. The dominion belongs to someone else. The owner is both most powerful and most merciful. The owner is most powerful and most merciful. Rely on his rely on his power and do not indict his mercy. Rely on his power and rely on his mercy. Trust in his mercy. Forget sadness and get joy. Abandon your troubles and find happiness. That is the source of human happiness. If you consider that the most powerful, the most mercy is the owner of everything, and the calamities that you might face in the future under his control, then you will find happiness. You will find remarkable relief in your life. And that's why this phrase is mentioned in many Quranic verses, like in Surah Al-Mulk. Actually, it takes its name from this phrase. Tabarak alladhi biyadihi al-mulk. The dominion is in his hands. Everything is under his control. He is the owner, and he's the most powerful and the most merciful. So the fifth phrase, again, is very powerful. Walahul hamd. His is the praise. As you know, in the first chapter of the Quran, in daily prayers, we say, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise be to the Lord of the worlds. And this, in this prophetic phrase, a kind of a short version of it, Walahul hamd. His is the praise. Praise belongs to him. what this phrase speaks to a human being, what this phrase tells to a human being. It says, the phrase says, O human being, do not suffer from withering of the bounties. Some bounties that were given to you are taken away. Do not suffer of that. Do not suffer because of that. Because the treasure of the divine mercy is inexhaustible. If you take something, he will give something. Because his treasure is inexhaustible. There is no end for his treasure. Do not wail because of your thinking about the loss of the pleasures which causes pain, for the fruit of the bounty is the result of the unlimited mercy. Because he has unlimited mercy. If some of the fruits that you are given are no longer there, you have lost them, some others will come. If the tree is eternal, when the fruit is gone, there will be another one to replace it. That is what this phrase tells us. If you have a tree and the fruits are gone, well, the tree is there. It will bring a new fruit. The owner will replace it. Think through praising within the pleasure of the divine bounties of something that is 100 times more pleasing than that fruit. Think through praising within the pleasure of the divine bounties. That is so pleasant, that is so sweet, 100 times more than the fruit itself. This is the sweet treat of the divine mercy. So, having a fruit from the divine mercy is very beautiful, joyful, but seeing that treatment of the divine in that bounty is even much more sweeter than the fruit itself. That's what Nursi would say. And that's what he would say. And therefore, what a person should say, Alhamdulillah, praise be to God. It's a very powerful statement. Walahul hamd. His is the praise. With this, Nursi says, you will be able to increase your pleasure from the first level to the 100th level. Like if you measure the levels of pleasure, first being the lowest and 100 being the highest, now your pleasure will increase from the lowest to the highest, from first level to the 100th level. Why? Because based on this phrase, you will see the sweetness of the treatment of the divine mercy in that bounty. That is a bounty above the bounties. And that makes a big change in our understanding of the bounties of the divine. So the sixth phrase is another statement or verb from the Quran, and that is yuhyi. He alone gives life. Only God gives life. And what this phrase tells a human being, O human being, do not trouble yourself by shouldering the heavy burdens of life. Do not be sad thinking of the transient nature of life. Yeah, life is transient, but He is the one who gives life. Do not regret that you came to this world thinking only of its worldly and unimportant fruits. Life is not meaningless. On the contrary, the machine of life in the ship of your body belongs to the most living and the most sustaining. Yes, our life is in his hand. The most living, the most sustaining. It is he who provides for all the machine's expenses and necessities. Of course, machine in this allegorically, he uses machine like the engine of your life. All expenses of it are given by the most living and the most sustaining one, Al-Hayy Al-Qayyum. That life has a great many goals and results that are all belong to him. Yes, there are many goals of life, and there are many results of life, and in fact, all are related to the one who gives life. So, human being, you are like a servant in the ship of the divine, and therefore focus on your duties, Nursi would say. Perform your duty well. Perform your duty well and get your wage and enjoy it. Make your life pleasant. Because the life, the giver of life, is the most living one. And you relate to the most living one, the most sustaining one. So if we compare our life to a ship, Nursi makes this analogy, think how that ship of life is valuable and how it gives beautiful benefits and how the one who owns that ship is the most generous, the most merciful, and be happy and thankful. Don't take all the burdens of life on your shoulders, because the owner is the most generous, the most merciful, and just be thankful to the owner of life, the one who gives life. And then he goes further. He says, understand that if you do your duty rightfully, all of the results come from that ship and will be added to the record of your deeds and will provide an eternal life for you and will give you eternity. Now, this transient life will become eternal. Eventually will become eternal. How this is happening? Because you have performed your duty well and you remain thankful for the one who has given the life, and therefore you now made this transient one eternal. You transformed your life into eternity. And that is the joy, that is the source of happiness. And then seventh phrase, where you meet, death is about death. He alone gives death. Death is neither execution, nor nothingness, nor annihilation, nor ending, nor being put out. It is not eternal separation, extinction. It is not coincidence. It is not an authorless process towards nothingness. You see how he describes death? It is not coincidence. It is not annihilation. So what is it? What is death? Nursi continues. He says, it is an honorable discharge by the Maker, with capital M, the Maker. It is an honorable discharge by the Maker, who is the most wise and the most merciful. So that you were having a duty, you complete your duty, and now the Maker is honorably discharging the person, and then goes to another place of union that will be the presence of the divine. And then death is also a door to the realm of eternity and to the place when an individual will meet with hundreds of friends. That's what Nursi would say. Hundreds of friends are on the other side. And then 8th phrase also it says, وَهُوَ حَيٌّ لَا يَمُوتُ. He is the most living and never dies. It's also very powerful, but I think I'm looking at the time. Our time is almost over. I don't like to, excuse me, spend too much time on this because I like to leave a time for your questions as well. So very briefly, the final phrases. For the 8th phrase, he is the most living and never dies. Nursi said, do not let their separation of the beloved ones hurt you, for they are kinds of mirrors. The change of the mirrors renews and embellishes the manifestation of the radiance of beauty. Since he exists, everything exists. You love something and you have lost it, but one who has given that to you exists, and therefore everything exists. Do not let that separation hurt you. Very psychological support also, I think, for human spirit. And 9th phrase, all good is in his hands. And here, Nursi, if something happens, do not become hopeless, because everything of yours is recorded. All your deeds are recorded. All your actions have been written down. Every service you have rendered has been recorded. The one with great majesty, in whose hands is all good and who is able to bring all good to fruition, will reward you for your service. So no need to worry. Every beautiful thing is in his hand. And then the 10th phrase is a verse from the Quran, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Allah is the most powerful over everything. In this phrase, Nursi says, it addresses human being. The phrase says, this Quranic verse, in other words, this Quranic verse says, O human being, the service you have offered and the worship you have performed are not in vain. There is a house of reward. There is a house of reward. There is an abode of bliss which has been prepared for you. An eternal paradise is awaiting you in place of this ephemeral world of yours. He is most powerful. He is powerful to bring eternal paradise. Believe and trust in the promise of your majestic Creator, whom you know and to whom you worship. This phrase addresses human beings that they have to trust, believe and trust in the promise of the most majestic Creator. It is impossible for him, Nursi says, it is impossible for him to break his promise. There is no any deficiency in his power. Because there is no any deficiency in his power, and he promises that he will bring eternity, he will bring eternity. He promises that he will reward your actions, he will reward your actions. Good deeds. There is a verse in the Quran, it says, even a good deed at the size of an atom is not lost. Individuals will see it. So nothing is lost. Nothing, the smallest to the biggest. No action is lost. It's recorded, and you will get reward for that. Because وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ, because he is the most powerful. And the 11th phrase, and this is the last one, the return is to him, and to him is the return, إِلَيْهِ الْمَصِيرُ. And this, again, this is a verse from the Quran. This verse, this phrase, from the Quran, from like a large verse of the Quran. It's a part of the Quranic verse, says to human beings, "O human beings, do you know where are you going and to where you are dispatched?" Now, the return is to him. What is that? Nursi describes this very beautifully. 1,000 years of happy life in this world cannot be compared to 1 hour of life in paradise. Can you make this comparison? Can you imagine 1,000 years of happy life in this world cannot be compared to 1 hour of life in paradise. And 1,000 years of life of paradise cannot be compared to 1 hour of seeing the beauty of God. 1 hour of seeing the beauty of God is greater than 1,000 years of paradise. Allah, the most beautiful, who has great glory. So you are going to the realm of His mercy and to the level of His presence. And that's why Ilayhi al-Masir is so powerful. Return is to Him. And I think that's also in Hadith Qudsi. Hadith Qudsi is, as you know, the hadith that the wording belongs to the Prophet, the meaning belongs to Allah. That says, "I have prepared for my servants something that no eyes have seen, no ears have heard, and it never occurred to the heart of any human being." So they cannot imagine what I have prepared for them. Nursi just gives us one comparison to make a sense of it. So what is that? Just imagine this way: 1,000 years of happy life on earth cannot be compared to 1 hour of paradise. And 1,000 years of paradise cannot be compared to 1 hour of seeing the beauty of God. That is the place where you are heading, where you are going. A human being, he is addressing all human beings. All human beings, you are going to in that direction. So that is why he says this departure in that direction is something that one has to be thankful for it. Not to be sad, but to be smiling and to be with joy. And that's why finally he says, "And all longings and lovings and attachments and captivations are nothing but a flesh of his love. You are being summoned to the eternal feast of paradise. Thus enter the grave, not weeping, but laughing." So this is basically the phrase that I took from the 20th letter in the book that's called The Letters. And I think I just, explained a brief summary of it for you. I would recommend to go, maybe even you can Google and say Nursi, The Letters, PDF. I think there is an English version of the book as a PDF on, you can find it via Google search, and then read the entire section that is the 20th letter. And I think you'll find even much more beautiful statements there. Thank you very much. Now, if you have any question, I will be glad to answer your questions. Is there any question?
Can you hear? So that was a really nice talk, Dr. Saritoprak, especially in these times where we're facing a lot of difficulties. We don't know where to rely on, and those wording, especially like relying on God, is, I think, as well, is really, really important, so that we can get through the times that we're dealing with. And about the question, it's about time. So it says, does time flow the same way in the hereafter?
The time for our imagination, that's a very good question. The time and space are in this world, in the realm of physicality, in this world. This concept of time, that we are aware of it, is based on our imagination, but the time concept in the afterlife is totally different. We just make in a way that our mind can understand, can imagine, or get a sense of it. But in reality, the time concept in the afterlife is totally different. It's not like here, because time is created. The eternity, when there is eternity, there is no time because there is no limit. So the other side, or the eternal, the afterlife, is the place of eternity. And when we say 1,000 years of this life is not comparable to 1 hour of the life of paradise, of course, that our term, the term hour, is allegorical. It's not, because there is no 1 hour, 2 hours in afterlife. And sometimes it's very hard to imagine timeless. Timelessness is not easy for us to imagine because we are limited to time. We are limited by time and space. But for one who is above time, time is just like a one creature of all other creatures.
Yes, thank you very much. That was a great answer. And we right now have one more question, but it's not about the topic, but about the books. You said you've taken this book from the Book of Letters, the 20th letter. And the question is, what to start reading from Bediüzzaman Said Nursi's books, which one would you suggest that our listeners start from? Or is there any perfect one for each person? Or
I think it depends of individuals. One Muslim brother once told me, he said he started with the flashes. Lam Alar. Flashes, in one sense, it's not very difficult. It gives the story of, first it starts with the story of Yunus alayhi salam, Jonah, peace be upon him. And that is the story that he is thrown to the sea, and a whale swallows him, and he stays in the belly of the whale. And then he addresses Allah, he asks God, and God rescues him in that situation. So it's very beautiful. And also, what is the meaning of it for our life? For example, it starts with that story, and then with the story of Ayub alayhi salam, Job, peace be upon him. And then it goes on. I think those stories are engaging the reader. And then step by step, then I think that's what he told me, his own experience. And then he said that he started to read the words, which is the largest book. The words is, I think, about 600 pages. First, he started with the flashes, then he started with the words, and then he started with the letters. Letters also is easy to a certain extent because mostly it is answering the questions. So I would say that sequence might help. If you start with the great books, that will be perhaps like a good way to go. And of course, as I said, every individual has a different capacity, different level of understanding, maybe reading a text. So for some people, maybe the words will be better. Maybe one can look at the beginning of the words, the beginning of the flashes, and then decide which one will work better for him. And one thing I like to say, reading Nursi, especially the English ones, one has to be very patient because the translations are a little bit hard because translating the words from Turkish into English is not easy, and therefore maybe sometimes you may need to read twice. Some translations are attempting not to lose the original format, and then it becomes a little bit literal, and sometimes in English that literal doesn't make sense. So you have to be patient. What is this? What is meant by this? So eventually you will get it, I think.
Hopefully, and I think one other way that might be is reading it with people who already read the books, maybe finding your email and emailing you a question that they have in their mind, so that
feel free to email me anytime. I think you can put my email, jcu.edu. It's on Google, or even zesaritoprak@jcu.edu. Email me, feel free to email me, and I will answer your questions.
jcu.edu. I'm putting it in the chat box. So zesaritoprak@gcu.edu, right?
Yes, please.
All right. So yeah, again, if you guys are reading the books of Bediüzzaman and any question pops up to your mind, or you have a trouble understanding, Dr. Saritoprak is there for you to help understand and have a better understanding on there is, inshallah. Thank you very much. And I'm looking at chat box right now. There aren't any questions, and so if there's any question, please feel free to type it in the chat box.
And I think our time also is over, right?
Yep, we're at 7:53. If you want to finish it at an exact time, we can say 2 more minutes to see if anyone has a question, and then we can end it there. Yep, I guess there's no more questions. Nothing popped up. Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Saritoprak, for spending this precious time with us.
I will see you next month, inshallah.
Yes, inshallah.
I think we will do from Rumi. We'll return to Rumi again, and then to Nursi. So there is like a schedule. Inshallah, we will do this in 10 months.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Let's say inshallah. We don't know what will happen next month, but inshallah, our plan is to do it.
Yes. So as a reminder to everyone, as you guys know, every last Friday of each month at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, we're here with, hopefully, inshallah, with Dr. Saritoprak. And Ramadan is coming up, so happy Ramadan from now on to everyone, and to you, especially Dr. Saritoprak. Thank you, everyone.
And happy Ramadan to you too.